I'm stunned. Morningstar guaranteed this. I was reading it. I was like, what? Whew. I would have never gotten away with that, and no financial advisor ever would have either. Pablo might have, because he's so doggone cute. Give me a thumbs up for Pablo. Snaggletooth vampire. You got something in your mouth there? There's a snaggletooth. Anyway, so let's read this from Morningstar. And this is it's a mistake. It's not really a huge issue, but seeing these words, you creep me out a little bit. So anyway, let's read this article right here from Amelia Frederick. Now, I don't know who Amelia Frederick is, but she has written some articles in Morningstar, so good on her. It's not like she's a rookie, I don't think. But I like this article because I always like back testing and seeing historical stuff. I've always enjoyed that, and working on my book, I very much enjoy this as well. But the 60-40 portfolio, 150-year market stress test. It took the worst bond market in history to make investing in a 60-40 portfolio more painful than a market crash during an all equity. So what they're saying is, if we look back through history, I say histoire if I want to speak French and go, ooh la la, Francois, give me some of that French bread. That's how I talk. But if I'm just talking to you hillbillies, I say history. Because, you don't wear a beret and all that like me fancy French people. Anyway, so in the 150 years of the markets, the capital markets in the United States, we've never had a 60-40 portfolio get hit worse than an all-stock portfolio ever. And what's this chick's name? Amelia, she says right here. Investors are still coming out of one of the worst bond markets in history. Between the bond market dismal 2022 and the stock market going into a bear market, the 2020s were the only market crash of the past 150 years where the decline experienced by the 60-40 portfolio was more painful than the decline experienced by an all-stock portfolio. That is, the crash was deeper and longer with a 60-40 portfolio than it was with the equities. And then she goes on to say this. Earlier this year, we demonstrated a key lesson from the past 150 years of stock market crashes. I still can't believe, I cannot believe this. Though we can guarantee there will be bear markets in our future, on average about one a decade, I assume she's talking about a 60-40 portfolio, the stock market will always recover and go to a new high. You can't make that guarantee, Amelia. Morningstar, you can't. This is insanity, dude. You can't make that guarantee. Are you going to lay your money on that? You're going to say, we guarantee this. If I were to say that as a financial advisor, I'm just telling you, man, this is insanity on steroids. You can't say that. Now, I know it seems negligible, I grant you. But she shouldn't say we guarantee, because people hear that and they think it's true. They just think, oh my goodness, we guarantee the stock market will always recover and go on to new highs. That's guarantees something in the future. You just can't. Anyway, I just chuckle because we look at the history of not just the United States capital markets and equity markets in particularly, but of Austrian markets, German markets, Russian markets, Venezuelan markets and stuff. We have example after example, just not true. You can say history has always shown that. We presume the market will recover, but you can't say guarantee. Morningstar needs to know this. This is insane, man. I was like, come on, man. Because there are a bunch of youngins out there who are reading this, okay, just hang tight. And you don't know that. This is what I drives me crazy when people say, it'll always recover. We don't know. We don't know. We have such a minuscule time frame of equity history. It's such a small amount of time. We don't know this. Never mind just looking at human history as a whole. I'm not even talking about the capital markets relative to human history. I'm just talking about the United States equity markets. What? Really only go back to I would probably even say the real history of equity markets probably goes back to probably the start of the Fed, if that makes sense, 1913. You can look at the 1870s. I've done this all the time, but yes, it was just different. Railroads, utilities, and whatnot. And very, very few people had investments. In fact, very few people really had investments until about the 1950s, really going to the 1970s and 80s. So we just don't have that much history. And then you got to look at all these other countries as well, and Britain, all these other countries. There's just not a lot of history where you can say, hey, because of this tiny minuscule time of histoire, we can guarantee that. Now, one of the things I did like is she goes right here. 150 years of market crashes through the lens of a 60-40 portfolio. And you can see right here, this is very interesting. It's something you should look at. Bonds are in red, 60-40 portfolio is in blue. And you can see a buck invested in all stocks is worth $33,000 from 1870 to today. A buck invested, I'm assuming an annualized rebalanced 60-40 portfolio, is worth $4,000. And so everyone and their mom will say, see, stocks out, that's Jeremy Siegel, everything, stocks outperform bonds. The problem that you have to look at is, look, from right there is the same, right there, not quite the same, but pretty close. It's a 19 right here is when stocks took off and bonds did not. Remember, bonds got trounced from like 1948 to 1966, 68 or something. Literally, stocks destroyed bonds. And because stocks destroyed bonds for those 20 years, it'll be almost impossible for bonds ever to look good relative to stocks in a historical time frame. Now, this is a 60-40 portfolio, but still 40% of the portfolio is being held back by significant down markets in bonds. Not like we had anything in 2022. 2022 was the worst one-year market the bonds have ever seen. But historically, if you take out that 20-year time frame, stocks and bonds have performed pretty close. Not all the time, but pretty close, man. It's just that 20-year time, like 1948 to 1966, something like that. Ed, what's his name, Macquarie, had written about this extensively. It's a wonderful read. I just can't remember off the top of my head. But Ed Macquarie talked about bond portfolio versus stocks. And it'll open your eyes because we've all seen these charts. And these charts aren't logged either, by the way. So it looks like, oh, man, if I just had a buck there. But if you logged them, it'd be different. But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they're still saying stocks have decimated a 60-40 portfolio. Okay. But maybe. I mean, but it's true, 100%. But at the end of the day, you weren't around in 1870. This was irrelevant. Now, with that said, do I expect stocks to perform better than a 60-40 portfolio over a long term, at least 10 years? Absolutely, unequivocally. Do I expect stocks, if they go down, to bottom out, come back up, and reach new peaks? Unequivocally, or else I would not invest in stocks. But never be so silly to say we guarantee they'll come back and reach new highs. You just can't make that guarantee. And no one should listen to that. I mean, again, I'm not discounting this chick. I'm just saying you got to be careful with your words here, man. I'm telling you. Just got to be careful. Now, I thought I'd share that with you. I'll put a link to the article here. All in all, a good article. I appreciate it. Largest real declines in U.S. stock history right here. And I mean, all this stuff is pretty cut and dry. But, but just don't guarantee. Don't make guarantees. Don't write checks your butt can't cash, if that makes sense. All right, smash that like button. We'll see you. God bless.